Revealed, disguised millionaire's hidden truth exposed by incredible cleaner's unexpected act. In the heart of the bustling Midwestern town of Maplewood, Sarah Martin was a familiar sight. Every day, she brushed through the streets with her worn-out cleaning cart, her movements graceful even amidst the chaos. Her laughter echoed softly yet joyfully, a tune that masked her struggle. After her husband left, chasing a dream that slipped through his fingers like sand, Sarah had taken on the world alone, raising her children on meager earnings. Beneath that bright smile lay a fierce determination that inspired not just her kids, but her neighbors too. As they faced their own economic storms. One sunny afternoon, Sarah headed to the extravagant mansion of Mr. Charles Thompson, a house that towered above others like a relic of lost elegance. It had seen better days, yet glimmers of a past life of luxury peeked through its peeling wallpaper. As she swept and dusted, Sarah uncovered faded photographs of grand parties and laughter, a world so different from her own. Though everything surrounding her spoke of affluence, she felt like a ghost in someone else's history. Little did she know, Mr. Thompson was a reclusive millionaire, skinning the layers off his own life like the worn paint in his stunning home. Haunted by a tragic past and living behind high walls of solitude, he too craved the warmth of connection, but had long since shut his heart against the world. Sarah's genuine kindness began to chip away at those walls as she shared stories of her children, the daily struggles of parenthood, and the small joys that painted the corners of their lives. Nothing like a good laugh to dust away the blues, she often said, her laughter rolling out like soft waves, unearthing old memories buried deep in Mr. Thompson's heart. But when the town launched a fundraiser to honor its local heroes, trouble began to brew. Sarah, using her infectious spirit to rally support, found herself facing unexpected scrutiny. Whispers buzzed through Maplewood like bees, especially once Mr. Thompson's wealth was cast into the spotlight. How could someone born from nothing be friends with a millionaire? As rumors spiraled, the town's heart began to pulse with judgment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With Sarah defending Mr. Thompson, standing tall against the tide of cynicism, her heart raced. She never thought she would be in the position of shield for someone so markedly different from her. The judgment pierced her like shards of glass, forcing her to confront her own values. Was it wrong to empathize? Was their friendship valid in the eyes of her neighbors? One questioned glance from an old friend left her breathless, thoughts swirling around her like autumn leaves caught in a storm. As tensions reached a defining moment, their worlds collided. Could kindness transcend barriers forged by money and reputation? Was there a way to bridge the gap between a life burdened by struggle and one cloaked in privilege? The sense of uncertainty hung thick in the air, twisting and turning like the shadows around them. Would they find common ground, or would their connection crumble under the weight of the world's judgment? The question echoed as their paths intertwined. Preparing for the challenges ahead, could true kindness know no boundaries? The next morning dawned with a heavy cloud hanging over Maplewood. Sarah rolled her cart down the street, her spirits dampened by the whispers that seemed to follow her like a shadow. She felt the weight of their doubt in her chest, like a stone pressing against her heart. After everything she'd done to stand beside Mr. Thompson, it felt like betrayal lingered just close enough to sting. At the mansion, the grandeur felt different today. The elegant columns, once standing tall and proud, seemed to lean inwards, as if afraid to witness the judgment gathering against them. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease suffocating her with each step toward the entrance. As she entered, Mr. Thompson was there, his face a mask of weariness. He carried the weight of isolation wrapped tightly around him. "Good morning, Sarah," he greeted, but his voice lacked its usual warmth. It dawned on her that he had been shielded from the barbs of community opinion for too long. "Morning," she replied, trying to sound cheerful despite the tension clinging to the air. As she began her work, she could feel his gaze lingering on her, searching for something in her expression. "Is everything all right?" he finally asked, a flicker of concern creasing his brow. She paused her sweeping, looking up to meet his eyes. "It's tough out there today. People are talking. They don't understand us, Charles. They think we can't be friends because of, well, everything." A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Mr. Thompson sighed deeply, the sound echoing through the high ceilings. "I thought that in this era of supposed progress, these barriers would be dissolving. Yet, here we are," Sarah answered softly, a lump forming in her throat. It was difficult to articulate how vulnerable she felt. "I just want to help you, Charles. I see the light you carry when you talk about the fundraiser. It's about the community, not just our differences." His eyes softened at her words, and for a moment, the weight in the room seemed to lighten. "Your belief in me and us means more than you know." A smile broke through her uncertainty, but that was fleeting. Outside, the town buzzed with what-ifs and pitying glances, simmering tensions on the verge of boiling over. Sarah wasn't just fighting for their friendship. She was fighting for the right to belong. As the day went on, Sarah began preparing for the fundraiser, rallying locals with her deep-rooted passion for community. The more she engaged, the more she began to notice the heated exchanges among friends. A few familiar faces now avoided her gaze, turning away as if she had become an apparition, someone who no longer belonged. Amidst this turmoil, the fundraiser grew closer. Would the town learn to see beyond wealth and class, or would it further divide them? That night, as she tucked her kids into bed, she felt a gnawing anxiety settle in the pit of her stomach. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Mr. Thompson. "Meet me at the park tomorrow after school. We need to talk." Curiosity piqued, her heart raced. What could he possibly want to discuss at a time like this? Would he pull back, retreating into his isolation? Or had he found a spark of bravery? With hope clinging to her, Sarah prepared for the next day, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The air crackled with tension and anticipation. One question surged through her mind. What truth awaited them both in the shadows of that park? The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when Sarah arrived at the park. The cool evening breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soft symphony that felt oddly calming amidst her swirling emotions. She spotted Mr. Thompson sitting on a bench, his silhouette casting a long shadow on the ground. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and dread thrumming in her veins. "Hey," she called out, forcing a brightness into her voice that felt slightly strained. He turned, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming, Sarah." As she approached, the tension in his shoulders seemed to ease just a fraction. She took a seat beside him, the bench creaking under the weight of unsaid thoughts. "So what is on your mind?" she asked, not sure where to begin herself. He took a deep breath, as if gathering all the courage he had left. "I've been thinking about the fundraiser, and about how much is at stake." His voice trembled, barely audible over the rustling leaves. "Right. I know it feels tough right now, but we can do this, Charles. We have to believe in each other," she said, trying to infuse some positivity into the moment. He smiled faintly, but it quickly faded. "It's not just about the event. There is something else I need to share with you. Something I've kept hidden for too long." Her heart sank. "You're making me nervous." "What do you mean?" Mr. Thompson leaned in, the weight of his secret hanging in the air. "I'm not just a wealthy man trying to give back. I come from the very community we're trying to unite. My family had everything once, but we lost it all in a terrible storm of choices. I lived through it, felt the pain, the judgment." His admission hung between them, raw and jagged. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "So, you're saying you were just like us? You faced that same struggle?" He nodded, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I remember the whispers, the cold shoulders. I wanted to escape it, build something better. So I made my fortune but buried my past. I thought it would protect me. Instead, it's only brought the burden of isolation." She could see the flickers of regret in his eyes. It was a truth that made her heart ache, bringing a rush of empathy that almost knocked the wind from her lungs. "You could VE told me. I would VE understood. What if it changes things?" he asked, vulnerability piercing his voice. "What if it pushes the town even further away?" "I don't think it will," she replied, the conviction rising in her heart. "People just want honesty. They want to know you're real." He studied her, searching for reassurance in her gaze. It was then that she realized this was the moment. A moment to transform fear into strength, to reveal the possible. Suddenly, a group of children dashed past, laughter echoing in the air, reminding her vividly of the innocence she held dear. We can be each other's bridges, Charles. This community, it craves connection. You sharing your truth can bring people together, not push them apart, she urged. Mr. Thompson's shoulders seemed to lift slightly, a glimmer of hope sparkling in his eyes. Maybe you're right. Just then, the moon peeked through the clouds, bathing the park in a silver glow. For an instant, it felt as if the world had shifted, tilting just slightly toward optimism. But beneath the surface, the tension bubbled, and Sarah knew they weren't out of the woods yet. If they were going to unite the town, they needed a plan, an assurance of solidarity that wouldn't falter. Look, we'll announce your past at the fundraiser, together, she said, her voice steadying in resolve. But we also need to show them that true change is possible. We have to lead by example. As Mr. Thompson nodded, determination igniting within him, Sarah felt the weight of possibility swell in her chest. Yet, a part of her couldn't help but wonder, would their candor spark acceptance or incite further division? With the stars twinkling above, their conversation drifted into the depths of plan-making, hope mixing with uncertainty. But in the distance, Sarah caught sight of familiar figures approaching. Their faces twisted in disbelief. A new wave of anxiety washed over her. Would they stand against them in solidarity, or turn back into the shadows of doubt? And in that moment, the struggle for truth was only just beginning. The footsteps grew louder, crunching over fallen leaves as Sarah's gaze flicked to the approaching figures. A sense of dread knotted in her stomach. She recognized them: Tommy and Brenda, two of the town's more vocal critics. If they were here, it couldn't mean anything good. Is that who I think it is? Mr. Thompson whispered, his voice suddenly taut with tension. Yeah, Sarah said, her bravado faltering as she braced herself. Just let me handle this. As they drew closer, she noticed the looks on their faces, disbelief mixed with something darker. Brenda, with her arms crossed tightly over her chest, stepped forward first. What is going on here? She demanded, her voice sharp like a blade. We were just discussing the fundraiser, Sarah replied, trying to keep her tone even. Right. Didn't he take you for the type to cozy up to the enemy, Sarah? Tommy sneered, glancing at Mr. Thompson as if he were the very embodiment of everything wrong with their town. Listen, this isn't what you think, Sarah started, but the bitterness in Brenda's voice cut her off. Of course it is. You really believe he is here to help us? Look at him, sitting in a park, pretending to care while we struggle. Brenda's accusation stung, and Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. Mr. Thompson's face was a mixture of hurt and resolve. Actually, he said, surprising them all, I'm not pretending. I came from this struggle, just like many of you. I buried my past to build something different, but maybe it's time to face it. He stood tall now, gaining confidence with each word. The moonlight cast shadows on his face, amplifying the sincerity etched into his features. Really? Tommy challenged, an eyebrow raised in skepticism. So what? You think a sob story is enough to win us over? I'm not asking for sympathy, Mr. Thompson said, his voice tempered with urgency. I'm asking for a chance. A real chance to help rebuild what has been lost. I know I can't change the past, but I can contribute to a better future. Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Could this moment change everything? Could vulnerability lead to acceptance? The air hung heavy with anticipation as Brenda and Tommy exchanged uneasy glances. But why didn't we know this before? Brenda's voice softened, if only slightly. Why keep it a secret? Because I thought it was for the best, he admitted, his eyes searching theirs. I thought hiding my past would allow me to be a better philanthropist. But I see now that it only deepened the divide. The tension shifted, uncertainty mixing with a hint of understanding. Well, Tommy said slowly, if you're really committed to helping, then maybe it's time to start acting like it. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her heart racing as she sensed an opening. Show us you mean it, Brenda added, her demeanor shifting ever so slightly. Don't just talk about change. Show us how you plan to actually do something for the town. Mr. Thompson nodded, his expression thoughtful. You're right. Actions matter more than words. I need your help. If we work together, we can bring real change. Together, we can prove that we're united. Sarah took a step forward, feeling a rush of exhilaration. You two are right. We need a clear plan. A vision we can all rally behind. As the four of them began to discuss potential initiatives, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. For the first time, it felt like they were on the brink of something powerful. But just as they began sketching out ideas, a loud voice echoed from the path, a familiar yet unwelcome sound. What is this nonsense? You are all wasting your time. Sarah's stomach dropped as her previous optimism began to wane. The night wasn't over yet, and neither was the struggle. What else might come to light? What other challenges lay ahead to test their resolve? Sarah's heart raced as she turned to face the voice, her earlier hope dimming into uncertainty. The figure emerging from the shadows was unmistakable Mr. Jenkins, the town's South real estate magnate and known adversary of progress. His presence felt suffocating, as if the weight of his disdain clung to the air around them. What did you just say? Mr. Thompson demanded, his fists clenching at his sides. I said you're wasting time. Thompson, Mr. Jenkins retorted, stepping into the moonlight, his confident smirk fixed firmly in place. Surely you realize that chatter won't get you anywhere. The people of this town don't want your handouts or your empty promises. Maybe you underestimate us, Brenda replied defiantly, the fire in her voice igniting once more. Mr. Jenkins let out a dry laugh and rolled his eyes. Underestimate? Oh please, Brenda. I know exactly what you're capable of, and it's not much. You'll find your little plan floundering just like the rest. The group stood there, paralyzed with shock and indignation. How could he barge in like this, as if they weren't all trying to claw their way out of despair? Sarah could see the anger burning in Tommy's eyes, the resentment in Brenda's posture. Mr. Thompson, however, remained calm, determined to stand his ground. Why are you so opposed to any change? Mr. Thompson's voice cut through the tension, steady and unyielding. If you truly care about this town, why not help instead of trying to dismantle our efforts? Mr. Jenkins' smirk faltered for just a moment, replaced by a flash of irritation. Care is not enough, Thompson. It's about power to shape things as you see fit. Change only works if it's profitable. That's the reality of this world. And you? You have no idea what you're getting into. A murmur ran through the group, uncertainty threading between them. Sarah could feel it too with every calculated word from Jenkins. The illusion of a unified front cracked just a little more. We're not looking for shortcuts or profits, she said, gathering her courage. We're trying to heal our community. We think it's worth investing in people, not just projects. Investing? Jenkins spat, eyes narrowing. The town is a sinking ship, Sarah. Throwing money at it won't change a thing. You'd be better off looking out for yourselves. With each biting word, Sarah felt her confidence waver. Was she fighting for a lost cause? Doubt began to creep in, attempting to overshadow the flicker of hope that had just sparked within her. Maybe we need to get out of here, Tommy suggested, glancing at Brenda and Sarah, as if sensing their hesitation. No, we can't let him intimidate us, Mr. Thompson interjected, his voice gaining strength. What we're doing matters, and we'll prove it to you, Jenkins. You need to understand this. It's not just about power or profit. It's about people. Jenkins stepped closer, the arrogance radiating from him palpable. Good luck with that. But remember, he said, leveling his gaze at each of them, when this fails, you'll have nowhere to hide. With that, he turned and left as dramatically as he had appeared, the echoes of his footsteps fading into the night like a last warning that a silence enveloped them. Sarah glanced around at her companions. The spark of determination ignited within her again, tempered by the bitter taste of doubt. She realized then that they couldn't let fear dictate their next steps. This was their moment to push back, and if failure loomed on the horizon, they would meet it together. Taking a breath, she said, we need to start planning for a public meeting, get the community involved. We can show Jenkins that we're ready to fight for what we believe in. Brenda nodded, her earlier defiance bubbling back up. Let us get moving then. We have a long way to go. As they turned to walk deeper into the night, a sense of purpose wrapped around them like a warm blanket. But in the back of Sarah's mind, how much longer could they withstand Jenkins' looming threats? Would their unity be enough to fend off the opposition? With uncertainty dancing around her heart, a question loomed. What other forces were still lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike? The following day dawned bright and clear, the sun filtering through Sarah's window, casting golden beams across the room. The sweetness of the morning air barely penetrated the haze of worry enveloping her mind. She could hardly focus, replaying Jenkins' sneer and harsh words over and over. It felt like his voice echoed in her head, relentlessly taunting her as she brewed coffee and prepared for the day ahead. In the quiet moments before the world stirred, Sarah let her thoughts drift. What could they possibly do to shift opinions in their town? She wrestled with visions of the upcoming meeting, the faces of community members filled with indifference or outright judgment. Was it enough to stand there, proclaiming their intentions? Or would they need more than just heartfelt declarations? As she stepped out into the crisp morning, her phone buzzed a notification from Brenda. "Let us meet at the cafe this afternoon to finalize our plans." Relief washed over Sarah. She wasn't alone in this. The fight was shared. The cafe was alive, bustling with patrons savoring their morning rituals, and Sarah felt a spark of hope flicker within her as she entered. She spotted Brenda sitting at their usual corner table, a notebook filled with ideas laid before her. Tommy arrived shortly after, a look of determination in his eyes that matched her own. "Okay, team," Brenda started, enthusiasm radiating from her. "We need a strategy. Jenkins may think we're a joke, but we can't let him sway the community. How do we get everyone to rally for our cause?" As they threw ideas back and forth, Sarah felt the initial weight on her shoulders begin to lighten. They talked about flyers, social media, reaching out to local leaders. Every suggestion sparked excitement. They could do this. They just had to convince people that their vision for the town was worth believing in. But as they strategized, a heavier topic lingered at the back of her mind. What if something happened to undermine their efforts? "I can't shake the gnawing feeling that Jenkins has a bigger play at hand," she admitted, glancing at her friends. "What if he uses his connections to sabotage our meeting? We need to be ready for that. What if we caught him off guard?" Tommy suggested, a mischievous grin tugging at his lips. "I heard he has been investing in a luxury development project. What if we show up at the site unexpectedly?" Sarah felt her pulse quicken. "You mean catch him in the act? Expose him?" Brenda's eyes lit up. "It could backfire, but it might just put him on his heels. If we show the town that he's not here for community, but only for his own pocket, it might rally them around us." "Let us do it," Sarah said, suddenly feeling the room electrified with their resolve. They would drive to this luxury site later, take images, gather evidence, whatever they could do to illuminate the truth about Jenkins. They finalized plans. Sarah pulled out her phone, snapping a quick picture of her friends smiling, defiant, and united. A caption formed in her mind. "In the face of fear, we fight for hope." And just as they were about to leave, the mood shifted. A stranger at the counter caught her eye. He had a weary face, dressed in second-hand clothes, sipping his coffee alone. There was something familiar in those eyes that hit her. He looked just like the man she saw on the news last week. What was he doing here? The urge to know more gripped her. Was he connected to Jenkins? Or was this just another shadow hiding a surprising truth? "Hold on," she said, nodding towards the stranger. "I have to know what is going on with him." As she walked over, the growl of uncertainty gripped her heart again, the stakes feeling higher than ever. Would he reveal something that might change everything they thought they knew about Jenkins? The step towards the mysterious man felt brave, but a part of her wondered, was she ready to uncover the secrets he might hold? Sarah approached the stranger, her heart racing with every step. His face seemed etched with stories of hardship and resilience, a combination that made her pulse quicken. She wanted to know his name, to hear his story, to understand what had brought him here. "Excuse me," she said cautiously, her voice barely audible over the cafe's familiar clamor. The man looked up, his tired eyes meeting hers, catching her off guard with their intensity. There was a flicker of recognition, and Sarah felt a jolt of intuition. "I think I've seen you on the news." For a moment, his expression shifted. It was as if a wall momentarily fell away, revealing a glimmer of vulnerability. "Yeah, I get that a lot," he replied, his voice rough and low. "I'm just trying to grab a coffee before facing the world again." Sarah inhaled sharply, sensing the heaviness in his words. "Are you okay?" The sincerity of her inquiry surprised her. She was drawn in by a need to connect, to understand what lay hidden behind the surface. "Just some tough times, you know," he said, looking past her, gazing at something far away. "Everything feels like it's slipping away, but it's nothing I can't handle." She could feel the weight of his silence, a shared moment where words were unnecessary. It was almost magnetic, pulling her into a deeper understanding of his struggles. "I'm Sarah," she offered, hoping the warmth behind her introduction could penetrate his defenses. "Daniel," he replied, still distant. "So why were you interested in a nobody like me?" She hesitated. Should she mention Jenkins? The thought that Daniel could be the key to unraveling her fight against Jenkins crossed her mind. "I'm actually working on something important for our town. It's about making our community better, pushing against those who want to take advantage of us." Daniel's eyes sharp remained, suddenly alert. "And Jenkins is one of those people?" "Yeah, he wants to develop this luxury project. It's meant to bring in money, but honestly, it feels like he's only in this for himself," she said, her voice steady. "I think he's connected to people like you. You might have information that could stop him." Daniel looked away again, contemplative. "You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm just trying to survive, not get involved in some high-stakes game." "Maybe, but what if you have more power than you think?" Her voice softened. "What if your story could inspire others? You're not alone." Her words hung in the air, and she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, a hint of hope, perhaps. "I don't know, Sarah," he murmured, almost to himself. "Trusting people hasn't worked out for me." Just then, Tommy and Brenda approached, their smiles bright against the backdrop of the unfolding conversation. Sarah felt them survey Daniel with curiosity. "Hey, we're just wrapping up our plans," Brenda beamed, oblivious to the tension. "Who's your friend?" "This is Daniel," Sarah introduced swiftly, shifting the attention. "He's got a story. Stories are what we need. We're gathering them to confront Jenkins." Tommy jumped in, his enthusiasm infectious. Daniel's gaze darted between them, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "Why would I want to help?" Daniel asked, now leaning back, arms crossed defensively. "Because your experiences matter," Brenda interjected, her voice steady and firm. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who has been pushed aside. And that includes you, doesn't it?" Sarah held her breath. Would Daniel step forward, or would he retreat? The air crackled with tension, a fragile moment teetering on the edge of decision. But Daniel's face fell into shadows again, and he looked away, as if the weight of past failures kept him pinned to the spot. "I don't know if I can be any help. I'm just not that kind of person." "Maybe it's time to be that person," Sarah replied, earnestness pouring from her. "Together, we can find the strength to challenge those who think they are untouchable." As silence enveloped them, Daniel's uncertain expression lingered in the air. Sarah could sense a monumental decision was brewing within him. Just then, a vibration startled her, her phone lighting up with a notification. "Jenkins has another community meeting tonight, don't miss out." Pressure surged once more. Would tonight be the night they took a stand? And what about Daniel? Would he find his courage to join their fight? The answers hung tantalizingly close. But for now, Sarah waited, her heart pounding, hoping he would decide to stand with them when the time came. Would he be a hidden ally, or would he walk away once again? Daniel's eyes flickered with something indefinable. An intense storm of thoughts seemed to brew behind them, storm clouds gathering but not yet breaking. As the noise of the cafe swirled around them, he stood rooted, caught between past disappointments and the daunting prospect of future hope. "Listen," he started, the words coming out uncertain. "I appreciate what you're saying, but you don't know me, and you don't know us," Tommy said, earnestness sparking in his eyes. "We're not just a few people wanting to clash with Jenkins. We're a community that believes we can fight back, that we can change things." Brenda nodded eagerly. "If we come together, we could push back against developers like him. Your story could be the thing that motivates others to rally behind us. People need to hear it." For a moment, Daniel's defenses melted, and he seemed to consider their words. Sarah noticed the flicker of hope in the depths of his gaze again, a flicker that threatened to grow. "I just don't want to get hurt again," he admitted, his voice trembling barely above a whisper. "Every time I've opened up, it didn't end well. Every person in this town has a story that's worth sharing. Mine isn't pretty either. We all have ghosts that haunt us," Brenda said softly. As he listened, Daniel's thoughts drifted back to the fractured relationships of his past, the ones he had long since barricaded himself against. Those moments of vulnerability had led to rejection and pain. But somewhere deep within him, a tiny ember of longing fanned a little brighter. "What if I step forward and no one listens?" he asked, his voice cracking. Then we'll make them listen, Sarah replied, her determination a candle in the darkness. You have the chance to be part of something bigger than yourself, something that could change lives, even yours. Don't you want that? Their eyes locked again. Daniel felt the rush of emotions, fear, and hope entangled like vines. The chatter around them grew louder, the cafe's vibrant life swirling around him. But inside, he held a silence that mattered. I'll think about it, he finally said, barely able to meet their gaze. His heart raced, uncertainty flooding back in like the tide. Sarah's heart dropped, but she refused to let despair take control. That's all we ask, Daniel. Just think about it. As they stood together, the world outside faded momentarily. Daniel glanced once more at Sarah's earnest eyes. Part of him yearned to join this motley crew of idealists, people willing to fight against the odds. Could he take that leap? That leap he hadn't dared to take in so long. Then the door swung open, and a gust of chilly air rushed through the cafe. A woman, clearly agitated, hurried in. Her cheeks flushed pink, and her brow was creased in worry. She spotted Daniel almost instantly, marching up to him with a determined stride. Daniel, what are you doing here? She exclaimed, her voice a mix of panic and urgency. Who are you? He stammered, confused by her sudden appearance. Listen, you have to come with me. There are things happening tonight that you need to know, things about Jenkins. We don't have long. The room dropped into a hush as everyone turned. Daniel's heart raced, pounding in his chest. He caught Sarah's eye again, disbelief and curiosity racing through him. Was this the moment he had a choice to make? Would he step into an uncertain future and confront the shadows of his past? The question loomed heavy in the air, and Daniel felt the weight of the decision shaping before him. Are you coming? The woman insisted, her voice steady and fierce. And just like that, the crossroads lay before him, wide and waiting. What path would he choose to take? Daniel blinked, the words echoing in his mind. The cafe felt like both a sanctuary and a cage. The warmth of the people around him contrasted sharply with the chill that crept into his bones at the thought of Jenkins. Could he really be the one to stand up to such a powerful figure? The woman, undeterred by his hesitance, leaned in closer. You don't know what he's really doing. It's bigger than anyone thinks. You can help us put a stop to it. What do you mean? Daniel asked, still struggling to understand. She tapped on her phone and thrust it into his hands. The screen lit up, showing news clips flashing by reports of corrupt deals, unfair evictions, and a community unraveling. The shock washed over him like a wave. People are losing their homes. They're fighting alone. But with your story, we can give them hope. We can show them they're not alone. His heart raced. There it was again, that flicker of hope. But just as quickly, doubt crept back in. What good would my story do? I'm just a guy who has messed things up for himself. Exactly, she said, urgency in her voice. You're a survivor. You've been through something. People need to see that they can fight back, too. Just like you. Daniel's mind drifted back to nights spent tossing and turning, fighting his demons alone. Would sharing his pain really help someone else? The idea felt terrifying yet strangely liberating, like taking a deep breath after being submerged underwater. But the harried woman continued, her eyes bright with conviction. You can change things. If we expose Jenkins, we can save this town, Daniel. But we need to act now. His thoughts flickered to Sarah and Tommy. They believed in this cause, and perhaps, in him. What is the plan? He finally asked, feeling the weight of decision slip beneath his fingers. The woman's face lit up. There's a meeting tonight at the community center. We'll discuss everything, strategies, ways to get the word out. But we need you there. Your voice matters. Daniel felt a swell of anxiety. What if he was stepping into something that would spiral out of control? Yet, as he glanced around the cafe, the faces of people he barely knew, yet strangely felt connected to, bolstered his resolve. Maybe this was an opportunity to rewrite his narrative, not just for himself, but for others like him. With a deep breath, he nodded. Okay, I'm in. But if we're doing this, I want to know everything. Great, she exclaimed, relief washing over her features. This way, we can show Jenkins he can't keep pushing people around without consequences. As he stood to follow her, he turned back toward Sarah and Tommy, who watched with a mixture of surprise and something else, respect, perhaps. Daniel found himself smiling, even as his heart raced. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought. Just before they reached the door, the woman paused, grabbing his arm. Remember, Daniel, this isn't just about fighting Jenkins. It's about community, strength, and finding your voice even when it feels lost. A sense of gravity enveloped him. Could he really rise to the challenge? Did he possess the strength he needed? With one last glance back, he stepped out into the crisp evening air. The street lights flickered on, illuminating the path ahead like beacons of hope. But in the distance, a shadow moved, lurking in the corners of his mind. Daniel, wait, the woman said, breaking into his thoughts. We need to hurry. Once the sun sets, Jenkins will be making his next move. Her voice trailed off as they hurried down the street, leaving Daniel with a sinking feeling. What if Jenkins was planning something far worse than he could anticipate? And was he truly ready to confront him, knowing the stakes had never been higher? The sun fell below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple as the growing anticipation seeped into Maplewood. The air was thick with a resolve forged in the fire of their struggles. Sarah Martin stood at the community center, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest, flanked by Brenda and Tommy. They were ready, and under the dim glow of the lights, this felt like their moment. With each person that trickled into the room, Sarah felt a surge of hope. Faces from different walks of life gathered, the hopeful and the hopeless, the dreamers and the fighters. A community she had always believed in was stirring to life. It was time to reclaim their narrative. Okay, team. Brenda's voice rang out, cutting through the whispers. Tonight is about truth, our truth. The murmurs faded as all eyes turned to her, clarity dawning. Sarah glanced at Daniel, who lingered at the back, his anxiety shadowing his determination. She would reach him. Each story shared tonight was another thread in their tapestry of resilience. As conversations buzzed, the room grew warmer, confidence rippling through acquaintances and strangers. We will not let fear govern us anymore, she declared, stepping to the front. We're here to bridge the divides that have kept us apart. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a chill swept through. The room turned as Mr. Jenkins entered, his presence like a storm cloud casting shadows over their light. His smirk was an unsettling reminder of their uphill battle. What are you all doing here? Planning your failure, he sneered, folding his arms over his chest defiantly. But Sarah stood her ground, emboldened by the community around her. No, Mr. Jenkins, we're planning a future worth fighting for. Your time of sowing fear is over. The crowd murmured in agreement, embers of hope lighting their eyes. My goodness, you think this is a democracy? He scoffed. But Sarah felt the tide shifting. The usual whispers of doubt began to fade, replaced by shouts of solidarity. Enough, Brenda shouted, her hands raised. We want real facts, not just speculation. We brought evidence of your dealings, the lives you've disrupted. This town deserves transparency. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady, breaking through the clamor. And they deserve a leader who cares, a leader who understands what it means to struggle. His voice carried, resonating deep within the crowd. You can't keep us divided with your lies. Sarah looked around, grateful to see familiar faces nodding, smiles appearing where frowns used to reign. Together, they were standing against the weight of a man who had thrived on division. Tonight, we'll share our stories. Each voice matters, she announced with growing resolve. The crowd surged forward, sharing tales of hardship and triumph, weaving an intricate pattern of resilience together. Daniel's story rang out, raw and real, moving through the room like a wave. And with each word, he shed his armor, revealing vulnerability that connected everyone. It was powerful. Jenkins fumed, eyes darting frantically as the whispers grew louder. Love, determination, resilience. Finally, he attempted to leap in, but the room roared with a renewed sense of purpose. They had taken control of their narrative. Your empty promises mean nothing to us, Tommy shouted, raising his voice above the rising tide of emotion filling the place. We're ready to do the real work. In that moment, Sarah's heart swelled with pride. This was what it meant to belong. With the night beginning to wear thin and Jenkins unmistakably rattled, the town witnessed a transformation happening before their eyes, hearts unlocking, hands reaching out to one another. The brakes that held them hostage began to snap. Join us or leave the town, Jenkins, Brenda shouted, voice unwavering. Groans of approval, a collective heartbeat of change filled the AIR.AT that moment. It became crystal clear. It wasn't just about gathering against one corrupt figure. It was about unity, community, healing, and reclaiming what was lost. As the meeting began to close, Sarah could see tears, laughter, and joy intermingling. History rewritten in that room amongst the people of Maplewood. There, in that sanctuary, she was reminded of the power of community, how souls could come together, illuminating the darkest corners of pain with stories of hope. As they exited the center into the embrace of cold night air, Sarah caught Daniel's eye, gratitude and newfound strength flooding between them. "Thank you," he murmured as he joined her side, range of emotions lighting up his features. "I didn't think I'd have the courage. We did this together," she smiled, feeling lighter. Every small effort counts. Overhead, stars twinkled like diamonds, a universe of possibilities waiting. Stepping into their futures, they were no longer held back by fear. They were defining themselves on their own terms. Beneath that vast sky, unity wrapped around them like a warm blanket, holding tight against the world's skepticism. And somewhere in the distance, the lingering shadows of doubt began to fade, replaced by hope, the kind that blooms in a community standing strong together. But the battle for Maplewood was far from over, and they knew it. The fight was only just beginning. Now, let us take this fiery momentum into the future. You need to subscribe now to see how their journey unfolds. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and boost this story of resilience. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us make a difference.